All right, guys. So I just wanted to start this series where I start doing some self-form analysis to figure out how to get better at disc golf. And one of the things I really wanted to try to do was to throw a lot farther, because my average throws are probably around 250 to 280 feet. In an open field, if I really try to rip it, I can kind of get to 300, but it's definitely not the average. It's definitely on the lower side of like 280. And so I started going through and trying to think about the things that I was doing when I was throwing. And one of the things that I really noticed when I went out to play is that I would often miss my lines. I would hit a tree and I would just totally lose confidence. And I realized that, before I could throw really far, I had to be able to kind of throw accurately, know where I was going to throw. And so I started going out and trying to figure out what I was doing to make me miss my line, whether it was an early release or it was a grip lock, like what was happening in my throwing motion that caused that to happen. And so what I did is I went out to this field and I set up this plank right here, or whatever this is. This is like a pole that I just kind of put in the ground, maybe like 75 feet away from me. And I just kind of imagined that as a tree. And my goal was to hit like this window right here on the outside of the right side of this pole, and the left side I'm considering it like the woods or whatever, and I'm trying to hit over here. And so I went and filmed a bunch of throws, and then I compiled them into the throws where I hit my line, throws where I hit my line but I went wide right real far, and then throws where I totally missed my line and went left and probably would have hit a tree. All right, and so this first video I'm going to show you is all the throws where I missed my line, where I ended up to the left here, and I wanted to see what kind of things I was doing in order to cause that to happen. And so the things I'm going to focus on that I'm looking at here is my reach back. I'm going to look at, see if I engage my hips the right way, and see if I have the grip angle right for the type of disc. All right, so this is a leopard, so it's a understable disc. And so as I look here, I'm kind of like going to scrub back and forth. I can see right away that my reach back is way too far inwards, right? It's like pretty much over my foot. And I think that's one of the problems here. And then the other thing I noticed is my shoulder. Like when I reach back, if you look at the angle of my shoulder, it's pretty much pointing away from the pole. Like if you think about like an XY axis. Does that make sense? No. Like a XYZ axis. This should be like parallel to the direction that I'm throwing, but it's not. It's like kind of contorted away from it. And this is one thing that I noticed in all of my throws that I went left of the pole, is that shoulder, that left shoulder was really far back to the point where it was you could see it from this camera angle, from this viewpoint. And you could see my shoulder here before I even get to the full reach back. As I get to the full reach back, it's really turned out to the point where you can see my arm here, you can see my shoulder here, and that's one commonality I noticed. You can also see that I was really trying to arm it, so I was kind of hurting my elbow, and I feel like that's really bad. I feel like anytime you're hurting your elbow or something like that's happening, you're probably doing something wrong. Again, this throw is the same idea. If I go back to, if I scrub back here to the reach back, you can see here, you can see my shoulder. You can see how far this shoulder is back. It's not parallel with the shoulder. So my chest is pointed this way instead of pointing straight down or straight towards the camera. And so when I pull through, I guess it's just causing me to not have enough balance and control as I turn my hips, and it's causing me to early release. Again, same thing, right? Reaching back, it's over my foot. It's like literally over my foot. It's too far in. And then on top of that, you can see my shoulder. And I didn't even try to put a lot into that throw. That was like a really light throw. Once my elbow started hurting. These are not all in order. And so I just kind of compiled them and put them in as I found them. Same thing here. This one's like a little bit better. You can see less of my shoulder. And you can see that actually kind of almost hit the line too. That was probably just me pointing in the wrong direction. But yeah, so like I'm noticing that, again, this is the only overstable disc in the bunch. This is a Thunderbird. I don't even think it's overstable. I think it's just less understable than my other discs. But it's pretty much over my foot. This is not as bad, but the shoulder's still pointing away. You can still see how much the chest is pointing this way instead of pointing straight down at the camera. And so you can see I totally early released that. And this is something that was the same for all of these discs. All right, so here's all the throws that I hit my line the way I wanted to. And if you look here now, as I reach back, there's a lot less of my shoulder visible right here, right? This is the peak of the reach back. You can see that, like, I mean, the shoulders still point a little bit back, but it's a lot less, significantly less, and the disc is less over my foot. It should probably still be more over here, right? But that's something I'm going to fix as I go out the next time. I'm trying not to fix too many things at once when I go out. I'm trying to fix one thing at a time, because I found that when I go out and I try to fix like 2 or 3 different things, I end up fixing none of them because I can't focus on more than 1 or 2 things at the most. And so, yeah, this shoulder's a little bit better, and the result is better. I mean, it's right over here. I turned that one over a little bit, but let's take a look at this one. So again, right here, it's even better, right? You can barely see the shoulder here, which is good. It's less over my foot. It's not over here. It's over the middle. Probably should still be out a little bit more. Chest is a little bit pointed better, but... And that was really hugging that line. Really wanted to be early released, but not bad. Here's a rock. So, same thing. As I reach back, get to the peak of my reach back, you can see my shoulder a little bit, but you can see that it's a lot less staggered. This is still over my foot. Not great, but the throw ends up being really pretty decent. Again, I'm not putting a lot on it. I'm probably getting like 250 or 240 with these throws. Same thing here with this reach back. You can see, like, barely see my shoulder, right? My shoulder is totally not in frame. This is actually pretty good lined up. My chest is pointing straight at the camera. And, yeah, I hit my line. I mean, it probably whipped out a little bit further than I wanted to this way, but that's not what I'm really worried about. I'm focused on getting it to the right of that pole. Again, this is a good vantage point. Look how square my shoulders are to the camera. It's not pointing this way. It's pointing straight towards the camera. You can barely see my shoulders here. And yeah, hit my line there. And that one went pretty far. That one went about, if it gets to that baseball field, that's about 280. And this is me not even really stepping in too far, right? I'm just doing like a small X step, planting my foot and rotating out. And you can see here, you can see my shoulder, and this is like over my foot. So I'm going to assume it's going to go closer to this line I wanted to, but it's not too bad. And you see it's over the left foot. You can kind of see the shoulder, but it's not that bad. And that's actually a pretty decent line. That's the line that I'm trying to hit. And so this one, it's over my left foot again, you know. So this is something I'm going to try to fix, is like trying to keep it off of my left foot and over here more as I try to throw. But that's not a bad release. I mean, that ended up looking pretty good. It's probably the gap that I want to hit is right there. So this is a really good example. If you see, I mean, it's over my left foot, but my shoulders are pretty square, and you can barely see it. And that's a good line. That's the line, exact line I'm trying to hit, because that's an overstable, and I wanted to come back. This one's a pretty good example. You can't see the shoulder at all. It's not directly above the left foot. Again, it should be over here, I think. And I think I'm probably like tilting into the throw a little too much, because I'm trying to throw an Anheuser throw here. Or, I'm sorry, a Heiser flip. But that kind of flipped up. This is, I think, probably one of the best examples here. You can see that in the peak of the reach back, it's not exactly over my left foot. It's hovering in that region, but above my foot, it's kind of clear the disc. The disc is coming down. It's kind of right here. It should, again, I think it should be like right here, right? But my shoulder is not really visible here, and that's like the perfect line with that. That's exactly where I'm trying to throw it, is that tight gap right there. If there's a tight gap on a course, and I'm trying to hit it, like, I want to know that I can hit it regardless of if I make it to the circle. I want to know that I can get there. So one of the things I also noticed as I was throwing is that there's a ton of off-axis wobble. So as I look at this, look how much that disc is just wobbling the whole time. And it doesn't until about there, like, stop doing it. And I think that's probably killing the distance on the disc a lot. And so I'm trying to figure out what to do to fix that. I think that maybe if I bring this arm out more, it'll help alleviate some of that, because what I'm doing is, as I pull through, like, if you look right here, look how much distance there is between my chest and the disc. Like, that's a lot of space. And I've been watching the pros throw, and when they throw, their elbow's a little bit more bent and it's closer to their chest. And I think that gives a smoother motion, so when they throw, it's less wobbly. I mean, look at that. That's so much wobble. So that's the next thing I'm going to go to try and go fix. But, yep. I don't know. We'll see what I can do about it. Let's see how this works. One thing I will say, the positives I'm doing is each time I threw, I really tried to engage my hips, tried to turn around, and try to get the weight transfer to be part of the throw. That has really helped, because after I started doing that, and instead of trying to throw it really hard, my elbow stopped hurting completely. And I might have thrown like 30 or 40 throws, and I did not even feel it in my elbow at all. Like, that's a pretty smooth release. Didn't feel it in my elbow at all. Didn't get that far, but it probably went about the same distance. Maybe went about 20, 30 feet shorter than when I really tried to arm it, and it did hurt my elbow. So in that regard, it didn't. I mean, I guess I'd rather be able to throw it accurately and be 30, 40 feet short than throw it as hard as I can and hit a tree and then be like 200 feet short. So, yep, that's it, guys. All right.